Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, the two final episodes of Season 6. There are episodes 614, titled There Will Be Brood, which premiered August 29th, and episode 615, the season finale, which titled The Fungus Amongus, which premiered September 5th, 2021, both on the CW. So sorry for the delay, as I am recording this on September 26th, 2021. I also just watched both of these two episodes earlier today, but I got unexpected contracts around the time the episodes did air, and then me finding the time to watch them where I had recorded them seemed a little troubling until today, but I'm ready to talk about it. A lot of stuff happened in these two, to the point where I had to also remind myself what happened where we left things off in episode 13. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the two episodes already, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the episodes. Other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. We are going to go into episode 14 and then go right into episode 15. Naturally so, why wouldn't we? So with that all being said, what happened in episode 614? Well, first off, let me just double check here, because I believe this episode was directed by Maisie Richard Sellers, which aka Amaya, aka Charlie. So the team got a behind the scenes reunion with one of their former co-stars, with her in the director's seats this time. So that's pretty cool. But timeline-wise, let's get right into the actual narrative of the story. We are in 1925, specifically Odessa, Texas, which happens to be Spooner's hometown. They're kind of stranded there. And also jumps back to 2021, where the rest of the Legends team is stuck, which we will get to in a moment. The villain and the alien of the episode, really, it's two villains, being Bishop and Constantine, teaming up together and going against the Legends team. So storylines, though, I picked up on two different ones, and you kind of have the first one dealing with what's happening in Texas, 1925, and there's two subplots into that one. And then the second one being stranded with the Legends team stuck in 2021, trying to get back to the Wave Rider, which is in 1925. Now in Texas, we have the first part of the storyline there is finding out about Spooner's past, because she ends up meeting her mom, who she thought died due to aliens, but it turns out that Spooner's actually from 1925 and she got sent to the future. And this is because of the Fountain of Imperium, which is the second part of this Texas storyline. So we have Constantine and Bishop going to Texas to find the Fountain of Imperium. We find out from Bishop that the Fountain is actually a raw source of power and an alien being that was sent to Earth as a repellent against other alien species. And once that fountain dies, the protection it serves around Earth dies with it. So essentially, it was holding up it was providing this invisible force field around Earth, kind of like cloaking it from other alien presence from the gist of it. And we also find out from Spooner's past that the day that her mother actually died, she ran and encountered the Fountain of Imperium, and in Spooner's weakened state, the fountain sent her to the future for her safety. And Spooner just thought of it as, thought it was aliens messing with her mind. So she's actually from the past and grew up in the future, kind of thing. So we find out a little bit more about that. I definitely suggest checking it out. I had to rewatch a few scenes a few times to really fully grasp what was happening. But yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that. While all this was happening, though, we have the Legends team being stuck at Constantine's place in 2021. And they tried to find their own ship, and that is trying to get a hold of Kayla so they can use her ship to find the Wave Rider and get their ship back. And also, they bring Kayla back by using the Necrean eggs, because they are on the Wave Rider. So they kind of tell her that, well, they need her help to find the ship, and if she wants her babies back, she kind of needs to help them out. So that's what happens there. And they get to the Necrean eggs in the laboratory that Bishop was being used for his cell. They get there just in time before his explosive device goes off, with a few very close calls with that. So there's that. Last scene of the episode, guys, is Constantine dying and pretty much being consumed by the Earth from by the dying Fountain of Imperium, just as Zari and Nathan were arriving. So Constantine got to say his final goodbyes to Astra. The vines and roots of the Fountain of Imperium, which is this massive mushroom, takes over Constantine's body, pretty much cocoons him, and then pretty much brings him into the earth, kind of absorbing him essentially. All as Zari and Nathan arrive. So that's the final scene of the episode. That would have been a shock if I didn't already know that Constantine was his storyline was meant to end this season. So just keep that in mind. But moving on to major tidbits, really the only thing was the fact that Behrad was actually absent in this episode. In previous episode, if I remembered, he said that he was visiting his family, so that kind of explains away his absence. His family in 2044. So that kind of explains it there. I don't recall any specific other tidbits. There's definitely some huge major story points that you should really go back to learn about, for sure. But nothing like small and tiny and stuff like that. But let's move on to a shocking moment of the episode. Alright, I would have said Constantine's death would have been a shocker if I didn't already know that was going to happen, or some version of it was going to happen. So aside from that, Spooner's past being revealed that she wasn't actually abducted from aliens, but she was actually from the 1920s, and that she actually bonded with the Fountain of Imperium, which sent her to the future. I wasn't expecting that at all, because I was going to have it as one of my questions, because the fact that they were in 1925, and then Spooner said that this woman, Gloria, that she recognizes there, is her mom. I'm thinking, how could it be her mom, being like maybe 20s, 30s in the 1920s? How can that be her when Spooner is supposed to be from 2021? You know, like, if anything, Gloria would have, age-wise, should have been like Spooner's grandmother. But then to find out later on, it's like, no, Spooner's actually from the 1920s. And like, she's currently in her actual timeline, and like, she just got pushed forward in time. Like, that was like, really explained the confusion I had about her mom's age. So it was just like, wow, definitely unexpected for sure. So I'll give it that. Top favorite moment. A huge thing I really liked about this episode was just the friendship between Astra and Spooner. Not only seeing Spooner gain to reconnect with her mom and really learn the truth about her past, but then to also see Astra's support and also concern for Spooner, because Spooner was willing to change her own history by saving her mom and making sure that she never left with the Fountain of Imperium to the future, so that she can spend the rest of her life like she was meant to with her mother. But then Astra is like, well, if you do that, you change history. You never become the legends. You never help them save Sarah, and her and Astra never meet, and they never become friends. So I really liked the focus of there. Plus, it also showed in this episode a little bit more about the parallels between them, about their own similar stories about separating from their moms too young, and how they wish to see them again. It was just like, it really did, even though it was more focused on Spooner's backstory, it really helped to have the support of their friendship throughout the whole thing. So I really like that. Another side favorite I did have was just the whole idea of Gary pretty much telling the Legends team to set Mick up into a pose so that they could take a photo to put it on the Necrians' version of a social media platform to get Kayla's attention and tag her in it. I thought that was pretty hilarious, and the fact that they got Mick to do it was just funny. So that's that. The only peeve I will say, but it's tiny just because of the fact, like, it served the purpose in the episode, but it was just the fact that the Constantine betrayed the Legends team the way that he did. He was acting more as if like he was being somebody else than he was just like he was still him and then just doing the wrong thing. Like, for some things that he was saying, he just was behaving more of as if like maybe the Constantine we first met in the Arrowverse, or as if like it was someone trying to masquerade themselves as Constantine. But it was just like, it was heartbreaking just to see him betray the team and then to have him die the way that he did. He didn't even get a goodbye with everybody. Like, he only got to say goodbye to Astra, which I guess makes sense because that's the biggest relationship he had. Is, like he said, his greatest failure, yet his greatest achievement was with Astra. So I kind of wish that he didn't betray the team, but I guess that's the way things go. I'm not familiar with his origin story in the comics. I only know like what has been shown of Constantine in the Arrowverse. So yeah, it was a peeve to see him team up with Bishop. I get why, but then at the same time, it's just like it served the purpose. So there's that. So let's move on to random questions before we start into the season finale. So the first question was, why would the Fountain of Imperium send young Esperanza to the future to grow up to become a Spooner? Like, why in the future? Why so far into the future? Like, did the Fountain know that in that timeline she would meet the legends and eventually get brought back to their own time? Or like, how much of a sentient being is this Fountain? So that was a question there. And the other question I had, though, is because in 610, we saw Spooner and Constantine go to Spain of 1939 to look for the Fountain of Imperium the first time. And this is where they met Fernando, I believe. And he was the one that had the connection to the Fountain. So I'm kind of wondering, though, because it was 1939 and technically young Esperanza from 1925 went to the future, did Fernando then become the 1939 conduit for the Fountain, or were both Fernando and Spooner channeling the Fountain, or like can more than one person channel it? Only like what was going on? Because I'm just wondering, with everything we learned about the Fountain of Imperium in this episode, does it contradict with what we learned in 610? Like, was that a lie this whole time, an illusion? What was it? Or was it just because technically this episode in 1925, all the events with the Fountain took place before what was happening with Fernando in 1939, right? Or was that even the Fountain? Because like I said, they were in Spain at that time, and yet the Fountain was found in Texas. So I'm a little confused about that. But there's that. So let's move on to the season finale, which is episode 615, which is the Fungus Amongus, which still has me keep thinking about the game Among Us, but which has no relation at all. But the timeline for this episode, it actually continues from 614 with the exact same explosion scene when in 614, Mick, Kayla, Gary, Sarah, and Ava were all rushing to save the Necrean eggs from Bishop's little explosive device. The episode kicks off with the exact same scene, and then it continues offward with Mick waking up from pretty much being propelled backwards from the explosion. So there's that. We also are still stuck in Odessa, Texas in 1925. And also they do jump to 2212 Vancouver, where they meet a young Bishop as he's activating the first Ava clone. Ava Prime, as he calls her. So there's that. The villains and the aliens of this episode is Bishop, or older Bishop, not 2212 Bishop, and also the Zagarans that come back to try to attack. But Bishop I guess he kind of recruits them. That's kind of the impression he gave. So there's that. Storylines, though. There's kind of two different storylines, but then like they each kind of like are like they depend on each other. So it's like the first storyline happens in order for the second one to happen. So the first storyline is saving Spooner, and the second one is the Zagaran Invasion. So the first storyline was saving Spooner. This is where the Legends team go to find a young Bishop to find an antidote for the poison that Bishop had given to Constantine, because Spooner was being affected as well due to her connection with the Fountain of Imperium. But when young Bishop gives the antidote to Spooner for the poison, she gets healed, but the Fountain does not. And through a vision, and then later on, through a vision that Sarah shares, the shroom vision, to speak with Constantine, who is within the Fountain, she finds out that it's not just a physical healing that the Fountain needs, but a spiritual one. And right now, spiritually, the Fountain doesn't deem humanity worthy of its protection. So that's why it's not healing the way that they needed it to. Constantine also shared what the meaning of life was, and apparently it is that we are all connected, which we'll come back to later. Second storyline deals with the Zagaran invasion. So because the Fountain of Imperium is weakened, the Zagarans come for a scouting team to feel that it is weakening. So they send up a beacon to let more of their kind come down for an actual invasion. And this is what Bishop wanted, because he wanted the Zagarans to pretty much destroy humanity, so that all that there was him and Sarah as the only ones left as the new Adam and Eve. He specifically wanted Sarah to be the last one standing as she watched all her loved ones die. Very twisted, but anyways, there's that. Beacon goes up. the pods land, and they have until nightfall before the Zagarans awaken and attack. So that's 4 hours left. So Sarah asks Ava to marry her in those 4 hours. So we have an impromptu wedding session, but then Bishop jumpstarts the apocalypse by making it darker, faster, and the Zagarans attacked. And we find the team learning what it means that having them all connected to fight together is what really saves them. But ultimately, love reactivates the Fountain's faith in humanity, deeming them worthy for its protection and reigniting it when Sarah and Ava finish their vows of marriage and officially being called wife and wife. Is it Mrs. and Mrs.? Yes, I like that. Or co-captains. I'll just do that. The married co-captains. Having it be official with the support of the Legends team around them. The love surrounding all of them is what the Fountain was feeding off of and deemed them all worthy, which is a great thing. And also a proven point of like they're all being connected in a way. So there's that. Last scene of the episode showed, I believe it was another time ship. It was another kind of spaceship popping in from the sky, destroying the Wave Rider as the Legends team were about to head on out. And it pretty much leaves the team stranded in 1925 Odessa, Texas. So yeah. Also, moments before that, though, they were saying, like, what could go wrong and questioning why everything was tied up in a bow. I mean, like, we know once they were saying that, you pretty much jinxed it. So now we see that. Actually, it was kind of funny because, like, when they were saying that, it cut to the title card, and then it cut back to, like, a mid-credit or post-credit scene, and then that's when the ship blew up the Wave Rider. So there's that. Major tidbits, though. We do see Constantine once again, and we find out that he's not connected to the Fountain of Imperium anymore, but his soul now belongs to a demon again. And apparently he's been given a second chance, but now he has to walk a different path away from the Legends. And he tells this to Zari, and before he leaves, he gives her an old key, and then he disappears in this weird fiery light. So I don't know if we'll ever see Constantine again, but that is the end of his journey with the Legends and the end of him and Zari as a couple. Although they both don't regret what they had together from the sounds of it. So there's that. Also, we find out from Kayla that Necrian mothers raise their children alone. We also find out that the babies are very hungry when they're born, pretty much devouring the first thing they see. Gary forgot to mention that. And also, I don't know if all Necrian babies look like this or if it's the Necrian human hybrids, but the babies all look like just octopus heads, more so than like Necrian heads. It reminded me more of that octopus creature that was which was created in like season 3, I think. That big one with like that Book of Creation thing or something. It reminded me of that. So there's that. We also have Mick admitting to Kayla that he has real feelings for her. She seems to be opening up to the idea. She definitely calls them family, and eventually she calls them family, and she doesn't want to separate Mick from the kids after he made a vow of not being there for them since he wasn't able to be with Lita beforehand. And he was lucky enough to have her accept him back in his life, so he wasn't going to make the same mistake again with his Necrian children. So there's that. We have Sarah also admitting to Kayla that the Legends view the Necrian babies as their family because they are also mixed children too, which surprised Kayla. So there's that. Let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode, the power swapping. So during the fight with the Zagarans, we see Spooner tapping into the power of the Fountain of Imperium and pretty much temporarily swapping the Legends' powers with each other. So Sarah's healing went to Behrad and Astra when they got both stung by the lethal Zagaran bite. We saw Zari lending her air totem powers to Mick when his gun wasn't working anymore. We see Sarah temporarily using Astra's magic. We see Nathan's steel powers temporarily going to Ava when she runs out of ammunition. All because of the swapping. So they're able to really connect and fully help each other out in the moment and providing the support they needed when they couldn't physically be in each other's places, kind of a thing. So I thought that was pretty cool that was happening. I'll also lead that into favorite moments as well. Just seeing that the combinations of how they could help each other out and what ways the other ones could use their powers. Now that that's happened, and now that Spooner is still part of the team, I can't wait to see the power swapping come into play in future fights. I definitely can't wait to see how it can be explored a little bit more, because it's always, you always see stories of with like if characters have powers, there's always that one episode where like they switch places or they switch bodies and they try to like I remember specifically in Charm, the original series in season 1, I think it was Prue and Piper. Was it Prue and Piper? Prue and Piper switched powers. And there was also another one later on, I believe, when I think Phoebe and Paige were involved when they switched powers as well too. And I think also Leo and Piper had switched powers again, I think, in an earlier season. So it's like the idea of like walking in the other person's shoes, just more in the power sense. So it was really interesting to see the Legends got to experience that a little bit. So it was we also got to see that with Barry and Oliver in the Elseworlds crossovers as well. Duh, it's in the same universe. So that was something I'm hoping we get to see that actually happen a little bit more in the future, especially with Spooner still being on the team. Because that would be something interesting to explore. Also, another favorite is the wedding in general. First off, tinier things, but like the wedding overall, the fact that they actually got married, I was so happy about that. I mean, yeah, you kind of expected if there's a wedding, something was going to interrupt it, but the fact that they were still able to complete it was just something that was like great. That they've been working towards this for so long, so it was just like great. So first off, I'd say their vows were spectacular. I'm glad that those specifically weren't interrupted and the interruption came afterwards. The Legends huddle to allow for them to finish those vows and complete the ceremony together was just great and a huge sign of unity and support for all of them, which I really like. Yes, it's in the middle of them fighting the Zagarons, but like literally if they're gonna die, they're gonna make sure that their two friends are gonna get married before the end is near, kind of a thing. So I really appreciate that they all came together for that. And then also another wedding thing was just the pep talk that Gary gave Ava when she was freaking out over not having the perfect words for her vows. I really love that. It was just great to see him giving her those supportive words and getting her to see the bigger picture. And then for her to come back by asking him to walk her down the aisle and how emotional he got over that is just like, the dynamic they have together is just something very unique, and I love it. And yes, it's always the tease that Gary has a crush on Ava, but at this point, I think he's just her number one fan, regardless if he has romantic feelings for her or not. Like he's like her number one fan, and he's like Sarah's number one fan as well. And he's Ava Lance's like super fan kind of a thing. So it was a great moment between the two of them for sure. And then the last overall favorite I had was just the moment that we got to see with Sarah and Mick on the porch after everything. I mean, yes, we knew that Mick was going to be leaving the show, or at least leaving the series regular status after this season. I'm glad he wasn't killed off. I was fearing that so much. But it was great to have him and Sarah have that moment because, again, they're the ones who've been there since the pilot episode. They're the only original team members left. I'm really glad they touched upon that, reminisced about it. They had this open communication of even just saying, like, do you remember when we first came back or we were first on this mission? Do you think we'd ever be here? And then pretty much listing how far they've come, kind of thing, opening the doors to coming back home to the Wave Rider for him. And then talking about what the future holds for Mick as a parent of Nekrian hybrid babies and being a grandfather to Lita's child that's coming. So it was a great moment for them. Mick's one of my favorite characters just for his bluntness about everything. And so it'll be sad to see their dynamic not happening anymore. But I'm glad that they got to share this moment with each other. But a side note, because we're talking about Mick, the moment where like he holds the hatched Necrian baby for the first time, and then it just leans into his hand, and then he says, "Hey guy, girl," or either or, and then he says, "I love you," as it climbs over his head. That was so cute. It was just like, Mick has come so far, and to see him want to take on this fatherhood role to the best of his abilities and not miss out on anything, I truly admire that for him. I wish we got to see it on screen, but I know that may not provide as much drama, or maybe it might just be too much CGI effect to digitize all 48 Necrian babies as they grow. But I am going to miss it for sure. I would have loved to see him welcome his grandchild too as well. Which leads into, no, we'll talk about that later because we're skipping a step. But speaking of that, let's move into top peeved moments. First one, it can't be helped. I was kind of, when the whole idea about Ava and Sarah getting married, I was kind of hoping that would mean we would get familiar faces from Arrow, from Sarah's side of the family, because it is a wedding, and why wouldn't you? But we didn't get any familiar faces like that, so we didn't get her dad, we didn't get the doppelganger of her sister, we didn't get Thea, we didn't get Tommy, we didn't get anyone that Sarah grew up with, kind of a thing. Even Nissa, really. Like, I have a feeling like she would be there to show support and stuff. Possibly, maybe that's just me. But, like, I understand why they wouldn't, and because of the fact, like, COVID's happening when they film this, so you can't really have more people than you really need to. But then also the fact that they explained it, that they're already stuck in the past, and they only had 4 hours left to live, and it's like, let's get married now. So it makes sense why they wouldn't have those familiar faces. So it was just a bummed moment, but I do appreciate that they explained why they couldn't have those familiar faces. I just wish we could have, because it was such a huge moment for Sarah and Ava to take that next step with each other, but that's fine. The other peeve I had, and it's small, maybe it's just me, but the idea that Bishop shares Sarah's thoughts due to the fact that they shared 6% of their DNA, I still understand how that works. Like, I get for some movie or TV show concepts, they, depending on what kind of genre it is, they have like, you're able to copy memories, you're able to transport memories from one person to another, and all that stuff. But from the way that they explained how Bishop had 6% of Sarah's DNA, it didn't leave me with the impression that he just got to pick and choose what 6% of her he got to keep, and then like what that allowed him to have access to. Like, with the way that the fact that Bishop was saying, like, oh, like when he was saying, like, right about now, Sarah's about to realize what my true plan is, and then he da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, wouldn't that be better by just saying they have a telepathic connection to each other, and dish that out as being because they have a genetic link to each other? I don't know. The fact that part confuses me, and that confusion takes me away from what, like, the making it realistic to me in their world. So it's just like, I don't believe it. It just annoys me when they say, like, Bishop knows everything about Sarah when he only has 6% of her DNA, which I still think he shouldn't know things about Sarah. Like, if anything, maybe like muscle memory or something, but I don't know. I'm complaining. But there's that. But let's move on to random questions. Because this is a season finale, we're going to have more questions than usual. So the first one, since Mick is leaving the Legends team to care for his new 48 Necrian babies and to meet his grandchild from Lita, is Mick going back to 2021, like his own timeline, or is he jumping forward to 2023, which is the year that pregnant Lita is? Right? Because we have to remember that in 2021, she's not pregnant, but in 2023, she is. So if he kept mentioning the fact that he has 49 kids, adding Lita in the mix, and then he has a grandchild on the way, is he going to be just jumping to 2023 to be with her? Or, like, what's going on? So there's that. Next question. Is Constantine dead? Is he a spirit? Did he get reborn into something else? What's going on? Will we see him again? There's that. Next question. If the Legends are stranded in 1925, does that mean that they will be spending more time with Spooner's mom, Gloria? Since that is her time and they pretty much got stranded on her property, which resides, I believe, above the Fountain of Imperium. So there's that. And next question, which is kind of season 7 question, but how long do you think the Legends will be stranded in 1925? If they're stranded, I'm wondering what would be, because with each season, there's always some kind of time issue they had to deal with, anachronisms, what was it? That can't be the only ones. Anachronisms, fugitives, supernatural fugitives, encores. Anachronisms cannot be the only one. There's like 3 of them that start with an A that I can't remember. They're up on screen because I really don't. But like, what would season 7 be? Like, season 6 was aliens. Season 5 was the encores with the souls from hell. Season 4 was the supernatural fugitives. Season 3 were the aberrations. No, that's not season 3. 1, 2, or 3, one of them was aberration, or 2 and 3. One of them's aberrations, one of them's anachronisms. The first one was Vandal Savage. So like, what would season 7 be if they're stuck in 1925? Like, what would be the basis behind each episode case? That would be interesting. Because if it's just going to be problems that they encounter in 1925, then how long are they going to be in 1925? Plus, also, they can't stay there long, otherwise they risk changing the future. Right? You know what I mean? So, that's a question. And last question. Is it safe to assume that Mick and Kayla left 1925 in Kayla's ship before the Wave Rider was destroyed by another ship? So that's a question there. I'm assuming so, because Mick wasn't part of that walkout that the rest of them did just before the ship blew up, So there's that. Also, does that mean Gideon kind of blew up too? I don't know. I guess I have to wait to see in the next few weeks, really. Which is, since no predictions, the news is the fact that Legends returns with season 7 on Wednesday, October 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the CW. So by the time I'm recording this, I'm literally, 3 weeks? 3 weeks out before I get an answer. So that's going to be pretty cool. I will say this, though. I don't plan on doing, just for my scheduling and what I'm trying to shift my focus more to my career. And these video editings take a long time to edit and to focus on. So I won't be doing video reactions to Legends. Maybe for the big crossover events kind of a thing. But we'll see how my schedule allows. But yeah, I was finding this year a little bit harder to keep up with the episodes and the reactions just from like scheduling and stuff. So that's just something there. So I do appreciate everyone who's tuned in for all my Legends of Tomorrow reactions. This show has been a hell of a ride. I'm definitely going to watch it though, for sure. Because I really want to know what they're going to do in 1925. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. Wow, I can't talk. It's after midnight for me right now. But what did you guys think of these 2 episodes? What did you guys think of the finale to begin with? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, theories, opinions, about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff, all found in one place. Go check that out. I'm a little behind for sure, but everything will be there. I usually bulk post a lot of stuff, or reblog a huge chunk of it at a time, so just keep an eye out for that. WordPress, link down below, a little more organized, a little more detailed, but still work in progress as well. So guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience for this video in particular. Thank you so much for watching my Legends of Tomorrow's videos for pretty much for the last 6 seasons, because I'm pretty sure I started when the season started, or when the series started. So thank you so much. I hope, if there's any other shows I do talk about on my channel, do check those out. But yeah. So guys, take care. Stay safe. This is Mel. Wish you a great day, great week, wherever you are. Bye for now.